while we've been on air this morning, we've had some breaking news because a bridge has partially collapsed in Baltimore, in Maryland, in the United States, after a cargo ship collided with it. These are the pictures we're just getting in.
Baltimore City Police, look at this.
Gosh.
They said workers are possibly in the water following the collapse of Key Bridge, which is 1.6 miles long.
Yeah, the Maryland Transportation Authority posted on social media that all lanes are closed in both directions due to an incident. Here's this image again. An incident, what it's saying, on the bridge. I think it looks to me like maybe that's the ship on the left-hand side. You see the silhouette of the ship,
yeah,
which might have collided with it. Traffic now being redirected. Maryland, of course, on the eastern seaboard of the United States, not far from Washington.
Quite extraordinary pictures. And as we mentioned just a moment ago, authorities there confirming that there is a possibility that workers are in the water.
That's obviously happened during the night in America. We'll bring you the latest on that as the programme goes on. But
we're just going to bring you now some images that have come into us while we've been on air this morning of a bridge that has partially collapsed in Baltimore, in Maryland, in the United States. Just watch this.
Shocking images. What we understand has happened is that a cargo ship, and I think you might be able to see the silhouette of the cargo ship just on the left-hand side there, just where the bridge collapsed, that it some way collided with this bridge in the middle of the night in Maryland. And we're understanding from the Baltimore City Police, they're saying that there are possibly workers in the water.
So this is that moment again. You can see the ship hitting a stanchion on the left-hand side of your screen, and then pretty much immediately that collapse. So we've had a confirmation from the Maryland Transportation Authority that obviously, you know, all roads around there have been closed. They're calling this an incident. Traffic in that area being redirected to various different places. And I do think we can take you there live right now. There we go, that's the live image. As John mentioned, the suggestion from the authorities that there may be workers in the water right now.
In fact, I've just seen an update here. The head of communications at the City Fire Department in Baltimore, calling this an ongoing multi-agency rescue operation, is saying that they think there could be up to 7 people and several vehicles as well that have gone into the river as this bridge collapsed. It's a long bridge, isn't it? It's a mile and a half or so long, spanning the Baltimore River there. There are more emergency services en route. And
we've just had confirmation now from an officer in the area saying that the cargo ship was in fact Singapore-flagged, a Dali, that hit the bridge on the Interstate 695. The Dali itself is 948 feet long. So that's a container ship, which they have confirmed, according to marine traffic, has been stopped directly under the bridge. And that the Dali left Baltimore at 1 a.m. local time, bound for Colombo in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, it happened about an hour ago, which was, about 1:30 in the morning on the Eastern time in the United States. You can only hope that that means that this happened when the bridge was quieter than it might have been if it had been rush hour and full of vehicles. But clearly there were still a number of vehicles there and people working on it. And they're now being searched for in the water.
It's the Key Bridge, opened in 1977. And as John said, this is an ongoing incident, developing story that is continuing. And as we mentioned, obviously concern for people who might be in the water. Suggestions of people and possibly vehicles that have gone into the water in the last hour.
We will bring you the latest on the collapse of that bridge in Baltimore, in the east of the United States, as the programme goes on.
Our headlines today. A bridge in Baltimore has collapsed after a cargo ship collided with it. A rescue operation is underway now.
And a breaking story to bring you because a major bridge in the US city of Baltimore has collapsed in the last hour or so into a river after being hit by a big container ship.
Yes, video footage that's been posted on social media appears to show this, the 1.6-mile-long Francis Scott Key Bridge crashing into the water earlier this morning.
We're still trying to establish exactly what's gone on. There is a major rescue operation underway. The city's fire department saying that 7 people, at least 7 people, and several more vehicles are thought to be in the river, that they've gone into the river as the bridge collapsed. And you see how quickly, how suddenly it happened. The ship, we think, is on the left-hand side there. It hits the bridge and then it just crumbles. So
quickly. And as we've mentioned, there is a rescue operation ongoing right now. We can take you there live, in fact. This is the scene, as you can see, just a couple of hours after the cargo ship hit that stanchion on the left-hand side, you can see, of the bridge. And then, as John said, the bridge immediately collapsing, rescue operation ongoing right now as we're on air.
You can see the blue and red lights flashing on the water. Those are the rescue vessels that have been dispatched. It is a multi-agency response. Fire crews are there, police are there, obviously ambulances in attendances, because they are expecting mass casualties as they carry out that search. The ship itself, it's a container ship which is flagged to Singapore, and what we understand is that it was on its way from the United States, we're talking about the eastern side of the United States, Maryland, and was on its way to Colombo in Sri Lanka.
Let's just show you this image again of that cargo ship as it hits the left-hand side of the bridge. You can see there, just in the early hours of this morning in Baltimore, in the United States.
It's a major traffic route. It's a motorway. It's an interstate highway, that bridge. Normally carries a lot of traffic. I mean, it's a dreadful situation and it's horrendous for anybody involved. But imagine how much worse that could have been if it had been rush hour and the bridge had been full of traffic. As it is, it happened in the middle of the night. But clearly, it's a desperate search. It's winter time. It's very cold in that water, and that's why they have to act so quickly.
We will bring you the very latest on that rescue operation as we get it here on the programme this morning. A major bridge in the US city of Baltimore has collapsed into a river after being hit by a container ship.
And in the last couple of minutes, Baltimore Fire Department have said they are treating this as a mass casualty incident. We understand they're searching the water there for at least 7 people, and a number of vehicles are thought to have gone into the water as well.
So this footage that we're showing you now, it's from social media, appearing to show the 1.6-mile-long Francis Scott Key Bridge crashing into the water in the early hours of this morning. As you can see clearly, the bridge collapsed almost instantly. Well, instantly.
Yeah, and it's a big bridge. It's a main bridge. It's an interstate highway that goes across the water there. So you can see there how quickly it's collapsed. And on the left-hand side, you can see that is the ship, isn't it? I think that is the cargo ship that we're talking about. It's a huge vessel. It's 300 metres long. It was loaded with pallets and crates, and it was heading...
the containers.
Yeah, you can see it was heading to Sri Lanka from the United States, but for some reason, in the dead of night, there on the eastern seaboard of the United States, that ship has hit the bridge.
Let's show you the live image right now. And we have had that news confirmed that the search and rescue operation is still ongoing, confirmed that 7 people are believed to be in the water. So that's why that search and rescue operation is continuing. 7 people and several vehicles thought to have fallen in when that bridge collapsed.
Our colleagues on the BBC website have got a live page up and running, so you can get constant updates there about what's happening. They say that they've worked out that this ship, it's called the Dali. It was a Singapore flagged ship. You see it now. It's just about to hit the bridge. This is what happened a couple of hours ago. That it had left Port Breeze in Maryland at about 5 o'clock in the morning our time, and then about 45 minutes after it left, it hit the bridge. Francis Scott Key Bridge, and air traffic radars are showing that, as well as rescue boats and vessels that are on the water searching for any survivors, that there are also police helicopters circling above. You can see occasionally the lights of the helicopters in the skies there above the water, above the bridge.
Of course, we will bring you right up to date as that search and rescue operation is ongoing, with whatever information we get in the next hour and 10 minutes here on BBC Breakfast. Now, our breaking news this morning: a major bridge in the US city of Baltimore has collapsed into a river after being hit by a container ship.
The city's fire department says that this is a mass casualty incident. Look, that's the moment when the bridge collapsed, just after it was hit by this ship. We understand that the emergency services are there in force, searching for at least 7 people in the water.
So that video footage appearing to show the 1.6-mile-long Francis Scott Key Bridge crashing into the water early this morning. Our reporter Ben Woolvin has the very latest.
This was Baltimore in the US state of Maryland at 1:30 this morning local time, 5:30 UK time. Pictures on social media show the moment the bridge collapses. The Baltimore City Fire Department says a large vessel hit a column of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Called the Key Bridge for short, it's more than 1.5 miles long and is part of the main north-to-south highway on the US East Coast. The fire department says 7 people and several vehicles fell into the river. The Maryland Transportation Authority said on the social media site X at around 2 a.m. that all lanes on the bridge were closed in both directions for an incident, without specifying what had happened. Traffic was being detoured, the department said. Just over an hour ago, the mayor posted this, saying he was in contact with the fire chief and other emergency services. In the last half hour, a Baltimore City Fire Department spokesperson confirmed the Key Bridge collapse is a mass casualty event, but the number of people involved is yet to be confirmed. Ben Woolvin, BBC News.
We're just going to show you some new images we have of the incident. Just a slightly different angle so you can really see quite clearly what is happening as that cargo ship hits the stanchion. One of the things you will be able to see is the fact that actually the bridge was very much in use, even though it's the early hours of this morning. You can see the headlights of the cars just on the bridge right now. You can see it was not empty at the point of collapse. We know, according to the port authorities, there were workers too around that area when the cargo ship hit that stanchion on the left-hand side.
The very latest, we're just getting a report here from the fire chief of Baltimore saying that as many as 20 workers are believed to have fallen into the river. It sounds like there was quite a lot of work going on, overnight work going on the structure. And you can see there, yes, that there's some flashing lights. See the red, the column, the right-hand column of the bridge, the bottom of the arch. There appears to be some work going on there just before it collapsed.
Yeah, and you can also see, if you look across the top of the bridge, traffic simply going across that bridge. You can see the headlights of the cars as they cross the bridge in the early hours of this morning. And as John said, you can see what looks like some type of work on the right-hand side of the bridge where the flashing lights are. And these are just the moments leading up to the bridge collapse. You can see, I think if you look, the cargo ship on the left-hand side as it hits. And there it goes.
Gosh, instant, isn't it? And it's a huge vessel, that cargo ship. It's registered to Singapore. It's 300 metres long. It's called the Dali, and it left a port in Baltimore. It only travelled for about 45 minutes before it hit the bridge, and it was heading out to Colombo in Sri Lanka. So it was just beginning a major voyage. And then these are the live pictures we've got, Sal.
Yeah, just as you can see, it's getting a little bit lighter there in Baltimore right now. We've had confirmation that from the port authorities that the police helicopters have been up for the last couple of hours. And as you can imagine, as those numbers have increased, we started, didn't we, with 7 people missing.
Travelling across the bridge at the moment of collapse, which have also gone into the water. So clearly that is why they're calling this potentially a mass casualty incident.
We just had it confirmed in the last few seconds that all crew members on the Dali have been accounted for. So everybody who was on the cargo ship accounted for. That just confirmed in the last few moments.
Witnesses telling the BBC there was a huge bang at that moment as the ship collided with the bridge, and clearly there are going to be big questions about how on earth in the United States, with all that technology and all that radar and sonar equipment and just being able to see the bridge, how on earth that could have happened. It's it's a big interstate bridge. It's been there for 30, 40 years. How that collision could possibly have happened. The BBC website has got a live page up and running, which is constantly being updated, giving you eyewitness reports and the latest reaction from the authorities there, just trying to explain the beginnings of what's happened. But clearly there's going to be a very big investigation, isn't there?
Headlines today. A bridge in Baltimore has collapsed after a cargo ship collided with it. A rescue operation is underway.
This morning, a major bridge in the US city of Baltimore has collapsed into a river after being hit by a large container ship.
Up to 20 people are feared to be in the water, according to the city's fire department, and a rescue operation is underway. Our reporter Ben Wolvin has the very latest.
This is the moment a major piece of US infrastructure collapses. The Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, in the state of Maryland, at 1:30 this morning local time, 5:30 a.m. UK time. The Baltimore City Fire Department says a large vessel hit a column of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Called the Key Bridge for short, it's more than 1.5 miles long and is part of the main north-to-south highway on the US East Coast. The fire department says 20 people and several vehicles are believed to have fallen into the river. The Maryland Transportation Authority said on the social media site X at around 2 a.m. that all lanes on the bridge were closed in both directions for an incident, without specifying what had happened. Traffic was being detoured, the department said. The mayor posted this, saying he was in contact with the fire chief and other emergency services. In the last hour, the Baltimore City Fire Department spokesperson has confirmed the Key Bridge collapse is a mass casualty event. He says the current figure of 20 reported casualties is likely to change as more details emerge. Ben Wolvin, BBC News.
3 minutes past 9 here in the UK. It's about 3 minutes past 4 in the morning in the eastern side of the United States. We can take you live with these pictures that are coming into us of the scene at the moment as what they're calling a mass casualty event is dealt with by the authorities in Baltimore.
As you can see this from a different angle, you can see a live shot now coming from one of the Port Authority helicopters over the scene as that rescue operation is underway. And the sense we're getting from this is a very, very much a major incident for them. More information coming in all the time. We understand the container ship that we're talking about, the Dali, is actually flagged in Singapore. And it has now been officially declared as a mass casualty incident. So that does give you some sense of the seriousness of this situation.
Those helicopters and the other rescue vessels in the water shining their spotlights into the freezing conditions, desperately searching for any survivors. We understand that there could be 20 workers who are working on the bridge who are in the water, as well as a number of vehicles. And I've just seen that our colleagues at our US partner CBS News are reporting that a large tractor trailer was crossing the bridge when it collapsed. And as a result, not only is that vehicle, but a large amount of diesel fuel in the water around the area where, as you can see, it's so dramatically collapsed.
And reports coming from the United States suggesting that actually, from structural engineers there, that actually this is a relatively flimsy structure, but we believe built, opened certainly in 1977. kind of a trestle structure, as you can see, with individual stanchions or legs. And so the bridge here has collapsed simply as a result of this very large impact force. The vessel itself was carrying tons and tons of containers.
Yeah, it's quite surprising to hear engineers describing it as a potentially flimsy structure, because this was a main route, this bridge. It's an interstate highway in Baltimore, the Francis Scott Key Bridge, named after the man who wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. That's who it's named after. The bridge, though, has existed for about 40 years, opened in 1977, but collapsed, or at least one section of it there collapsed just in an instant. And there, right next to it on the left-hand side, you can see loaded the bridge itself, the ship itself, this large cargo ship, full of containers, heading to Sri Lanka. It had only just left the port, hadn't it?
And what, in fact, it was supposed to have been doing was heading through the middle of those two stanchions, was clearly, from the images that we've seen, off course. Should have been going through the gap, but didn't, for whatever reason. You can see from these still images now, I think you do get some idea, a sense of just how cold it might be over there in the early hours of this morning as the rescue operation continues. Obviously, huge time pressure, declared as a serious incident by the authorities, and around 20 people believed to have gone into the water.
Those flashing lights, a sign of the intense search effort that is underway. They're live in Baltimore. We'll bring you the very latest if we get anything more from there before the end of the programme. There's a live page on the BBC website, and of course the BBC News channel will update you constantly over the next few hours.
We've been bringing you news this morning, haven't we, about the bridge collapse in the US city of Baltimore after being hit by a container ship in the early hours of this morning.
Yeah, what we know is that up to 20 people are feared to be in the water there, are being searched for by the city's fire department. A massive rescue operation is underway.
You can see that incredible image there of the moment that cargo ship hits a stanchion on the left-hand side on the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which then partially collapsed into the water. Let's take you there live now, just a slightly different angle. You can see the cargo ship more clearly here on the left-hand side of your screen. Just see that completely ground to a halt, and the bridge collapsed right on top of it.
And that vessel, that ship, is a huge vessel. It's 300 metres long. It's registered in Singapore, and it was on its way from the United States. It had just left the harbour, just left the port there in Baltimore, and was heading to Sri Lanka. But something has gone dreadfully wrong as it approached that bridge.
Yeah. We know from the local authorities that there was, in fact, a tractor-trailer on the bridge at the time of the collapse. There is, therefore, quite a large amount of diesel in the water as that rescue operation is now underway, looking for around 20 people who they believe went into the water. We know that everybody who was on board the cargo ship has been found safe and well. There are no casualties there.
But around 20 people and other vehicles in the water, and we're just hearing that the temperature in Baltimore Harbour is currently only 9 degrees Celsius, 48 Fahrenheit. And of course, hypothermia occurs when the temperature of the body drops below about 35 Celsius. So the water is very cold. It is still the end of winter, beginning of spring there on the eastern side of the United States. It's the middle of the night. And this happened 2 hours ago, so every minute counts.
Yeah, these images from one of the helicopters we're just showing you there. And, of course, the very latest we'll be bringing you all day on BBC News Online and, of course, on the BBC News Channel 2.
Thank you for your company this morning. We've been covering that ongoing emergency on the eastern side of America, where this bridge collapsed a couple of hours ago after being hit by a cargo ship.
Those incredible images we've been bringing you this morning of an incident that happened a few hours ago, the early hours of the morning in Baltimore. We believe there are 20 people unaccounted for, and a huge search and rescue operation is currently underway.
And an investigation into how on earth that could have happened. We know that the ship is a huge 300-metre-long vessel that had just left the port there in Maryland, Baltimore, and was heading to Sri Lanka.
You can follow the story throughout the day on the BBC News channel and, of course, the BBC News website.